the steps of
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just review. I just started recording, so let's just review what we just talked about. We talked about encaustic paint being the sticks. There are more than one manufacturers of encaustic paint, right? So did you use fineartstore.com? Did you buy from
No,
somewhere else?
I went to Jerry's.
Okay,
Art,
that's fine. So
and
I use fineartstore.com. They're in Rochester, New York, and I have just been using the same. You can shop wherever you want, but just easy navigation. I can always find what I want on their site. I love their display, how they, I love how they show the waxes. They also make paint. So you bought R&F.
yeah,
That's
I
one,
did.
right? That's one manufacturer. So there's more than one. There's R&F, there's Encausticos. There was a guy named Miles Conrad. There's also some small companies in Canada who also make encaustic paints, right? So,
Okay.
and everyone's paints are going to be slightly different. Okay. And you can try. So Encaustico's paints, they come in wax mats or in sticks. So like their brand comes like this
Okay.
or like this. And these are cute. They're kind of like chocolate bars. So they just snap and they come in all these different colors.
That's great.
I like both companies. R&F is very saturated. They're very dense paints. Like I really have to dilute them a lot. Encausticos are a little bit lighter. And they just make different colors. So you should look at both for sure.
All right. Yeah, I was going to ask you about like different. I wasn't sure if I was going to get it in time, so that's why I just went to the store. But
Oh, that's fine. Oh, you have a Jerry's near you. You actually physically went there.
Oh yeah, right down the street. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I like Jerry's because it's all artists that work there, and
yeah,
they're very, they're educated. So
that's great. Yeah, whatever works for you. I mean, some like we have Blick here, and sometimes Blick will have like 2 or 3 encaustic supplies, but they just won't have the whole. And they might have the R&F rack, but that might be it. So
yeah, they didn't have a very big selection in terms of like, their encaustic area was very limited.
Right.
So yeah, I'll check out the website that you suggested.
Yeah, I'm gonna chat it to you right now. I'll chat it to you. Right. So sorry, my dog is a pain in the butt.
That's all right.
It's fineartstore.com. And if you want, I can just quickly show you their I'll just do screen share for a second. I'll show you. Also, I highly recommend R&F. Like, oh look, I was just on there because I sent them some images that they're maybe going to use for their social media.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, or social media. What was I talking about? So this is really cool. Actually, just right down here, do you see they did this little demo and they did like, this is a print or a drawing, right? And this is uncoated. This is coated with wax medium. This is yellow wax medium. And then this is XD wax medium. So it's kind of nice. You can see that, right? You can notice the difference, right? So like, and what does this remind you of? It reminds me of like Instagram, right? So I think that in a way, we're so like our brains, like for me, for editing even my artwork, I think back to like what I do on my phone all the time, where I like take a picture and then I go into Instagram and then I can pick like all these different tones or whatever.
Right. Yeah, and then you're adding the filters and
right. So you're basically going to be doing the same thing with wax, but you're going to be doing it organically, and you're going to sort of be making those same like psychological choices about tone, about sharpness, about color, about texture, about detail, with your hands instead of like digitally, right?
I like that much better. Yes.
Yeah, but it's cool to see that. So, all right, so these are wax mediums, right? So wax mediums are to encaustic what water is to watercolor.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so they're basically translucent and they are a dilution aid, right? So if you add wax medium to an encaustic paint, you're basically increasing its translucency.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. I paint with acrylics and I use an acrylic medium,
Yeah.
so that helps to like dilute some of those harder colors.
Right. So you're going to use it. Now I'm not a great. I've done a little bit of acrylic painting, but very in very like grungy kind of like half-wit ways. I've never gotten into like the layering with acrylic or acrylic mediums, but it's similar to that. And the nice thing about right, similar to those techniques. The things that I like about the oils and the waxes is they're slower to dry. They're more tactile for me. They're more immediate. I can make changes longer than I think you can with acrylic. I also think that you can do more glaze. For me, it's easier to glaze and create layers.
Okay, cool.
So I was never very successful in managing acrylic layers, but maybe I already had like a preference to wax and oils. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are all your mediums. I don't use any of these products. Like interference means it's sparkly.
Oh, okay.
Okay. XD wax medium means it has extra resin in it, and resin creates more shine. So if you're using more resin, it means that it's making it harder and more shiny. So like think about like matte versus glossy.
Glossy, right? Okay.
Okay. And then yellow wax medium just means that, just like this picture right here,
It has a little tint.
yeah, it's a little yellow because beeswax, like out of the hive, is like ochre. It's like brown, right? So when they're making it lighter, they're lifting the color out of it, and they don't use like Clorox, they don't use bleach, they use hydrogen peroxide
Oh, interesting.
to whiten it, right? Okay. And then I don't know what the custom blended wax medium is. It looks like it's probably just another mixture that they have, and it looks a little bit more yellow. What does it say about the custom one? I've never even actually seen custom. For those are like custom colors, two types. I just was trying to read what they said about. I've never seen that custom blended wax medium, but you can try any of these at any of time if you want to try more, glossy for one day. I mean, it's not going to make or break it, and you're more than welcome to buy a small quantity of any of these and throw it into the mix because they all play nicely together.
Okay.
Like don't be intimidated, or if you just feel like trying something new. All right.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna go to their.
What's the black wax for?
This bag right here.
No, on their top picture.
Oh wait, let me go back. Oh, that's just a dark color. That's just like a black encaustic.
Okay, so that would come out like a little more like of a smoky.
No, that would probably come out like totally like solid black.
Oh, really?
Yeah, unless you really diluted it, and then you could make it like a smoky light gray.
Okay.
Area. And we'll talk about that as we start to work with the waxes. Like you can take a very dark color and use a tiny bit of it and use a lot of wax medium and make it like translucent, like an aura of the color instead of a solid of the color.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a pretty picture though. They probably just put that black in there just to add like the pop.
Yeah.
To show off the light colors. All right, wait, let me show you the paint. Okay, so I just think their website is so cool, and they just redid it, and it's so pretty. And it's like, okay, so these are all their paints. So their paints come in hot sticks. And look, we could even just wait. I'm just curious what this little video is. Let's see what this video is. Let's see. So they make all their colors. So what Catherine actually gets to make these colors, like, so that's how you melt them, right? Just right on, and then you paint with them like regular paint.
Wow.
And then do you see out there she has extent, that's the wax medium.
Got it.
Right? So now she's diluting it, and then now she's mixing the colors together. And then she's painting with it.
Oh, it's so cool.
There are so many fun
Very
things to do with
satisfying to
sausage. I
watch.
know, look. It's like, so she put the substrate basically like right on the hot plate, and then she's doing like a lift. Have you ever done any like printmaking or jelly printing?
No,
That's pretty cool.
that's really cool. Oh,
I love
wow.
art videos.
Oh, I'm so inspired.
I know. All right. So that was a really good quick example. So here's all their single colors, right? So, you know, look at all their colors,
Oh, wow.
right?
Oh,
It's
this
just,
is so much more color than what Jerry's had. This is like,
yeah,
oh, it really helps to see all of that.
right. It does. And it really helps. It's kind of like when I lay my paints out in those piles, like I showed you, like rainbow ties them, you realize like how many shades of red there actually are and how many shades of blue and green. Like a lot of the colors, like I just know I don't like. But for me, like I don't even care, because if I get a color that I don't like, I'm going to put it with a color that I like, and another color, I'm going to mix it and make it good. So
Oh,
I
that's
mix my
cool.
paints a lot. Like I do a lot of 2 or 3 colors in every single one of my paint colors. So like I might put like this yellow, this blue, and like this purple together. I mean, and then add some white, right? Or I might put like this green, this blue, and this like this. Oh my God. All of these neutral like cream colors are like half and half to coffee, right? They just make it look so much better.
I can see that. Yeah.
Like
Oh,
any of the milky colors, any of the, like this color, golden titan jaune, like Naples yellow, Naples light, any of these milky colors, even like red earth
I
pale.
love that color.
It's beautiful. And look, and these two together, like
Oh
this
my God.
this
Yeah.
row, raw sienna, raw umber, earth pale, and sage green, like bring it on.
Yep.
And then I
totally
love
see
this
that.
ultramarine rose right here, and the yellow ochre. And I don't like Viridian, but I do like this green earth, and I
Yeah.
like all the sagey greens. Anything sage green. I don't like this one's okay, I guess. Okay. So then sometimes they sell these little kits too, which are fun. So these are 5 packs, and these I highly recommend getting a couple of these, because they'll just help. Like this one's beautiful with the French light, ultramarine light in it. This is a gorgeous color. And this yellow this is like butter, like
That's so pretty.
butter.
Yeah.
And this green, actually, this green right here is gorgeous. Like for whatever reason, chartreuse is like, I never thought I liked it, but it's really pretty color. This is good too. These jewel tones are nice. Um, this pastel one's nice. I mean, all of these sets are nice. If you want to experiment with the metallics too, they're always super cool. You don't need the glazing set. And I definitely wouldn't buy the primary set. I just would never buy, I would never buy a primary set.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but you could buy the opal set or the interference set, right?
Yeah,
Which
I
is
like
like,
that.
yeah, these are like glittery and very translucent. You could buy the basic set, but this one, like, this is a good set. Just like
Yeah.
that row. This is a set that you would really enjoy. If you like browns and sepia tones and black and white, like this would be a great set for you. These are the earth tones.
Yeah. That's really what I'm drawn to. I'm really drawn to that.
Oh, me too. I know, me too. I can show you a couple techniques. Like I use a wax and tar technique, and I use it's literally like asphalt, but it looks like it looks like brown shoe polish on wax. It's like incredible.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Now
like that.
this is,
Yeah.
I mean, this is at one time I did this and I was able to buy this complete set, the $450 box, and that was super fun just to have that. I mean, it's a huge investment. Don't ever feel like you need it, but if you do happen to find $500 on the corner, that could be a fun thing to buy. Okay.
Yeah.
I know, right? Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, so tools. So there are quite a few encaustic tools that people do enjoy. One of them is a heated point attachment. I don't do heated attachments because I just use pottery tools. So I do a lot of mark making and incising in my work, but generally I use um, pottery tools. So the wooden ones like this,
Okay.
or like this, and I'll show you closer so you can see them better.
Okay.
But I tend to like hit the craft section of Michael's or the hardware store. Like I might even go like over to Dunkin' shop and like grab some nails. Like there's a lot of things that you can use to draw into the wax.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, but if you did want to experiment, these are heated tips, right? So these are actually, it's actually like a tool that heats up, and
Yeah.
then the different size tips can create different size lines or spaces in the wax.
Okay. I'm familiar with wood burning, so that makes sense.
So there's an artist that I'm going to teach with next summer, and I'm actually going to chat you her name. So, like, one of the things for me is and I'm the same way with photography, but I really like to look at other people's work.
Yeah.
So, one of this artist is a local Philadelphia encaustic artist, and she does a lot of wood burning and drawing into the wood before she even starts the encaustic.
So she does
So
a combination of wood burning and encaustic.
yeah, and she uses horsehair and she
Cool.
uses collage. Yeah, she uses horsehair and collage and burning. I think she calls it like pyro, something like it has a certain name. It's like a whole art form.
Yes,
And I do a lot of burning too. So if you have you watched some of my IGTV videos from this last year?
yeah, I did. Yes.
So there were a number of collages that I literally made like the entire paper collage, and then I burned the whole surface with a torch, and
Right.
then
I saw
yeah, and then I painted the wax on top of that.
that. Okay.
So that could be, and what the reason that I do that is to create sort of what I call the alchemistic art marks, like the natural organic stuff that I used to get from the dark room.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That makes sense.
Right. So I used to try to do like staining and tea staining and like light leaks and spill chemicals and sort of like accidentally like open the door like fog paper. So I was doing sort of scientific like wild things with paper, and then now I've just sort of transferred that interest into heat and burning, the art of burning, I guess.
That's so cool.
Okay, so these are encaustic brushes. These are just hot, so you could use any of these brushes. I use these brushes, these, and I can show you when we go bigger too. These, I don't use these slotted brushes, but these are here's a whole plethora of slanted brushes, slotted brushes. I used to use the slotted brushes. I don't know why I stopped exactly, except that maybe I just stopped buying them. But the thing about a slotted brush is that it's like you're gonna have the brush is gonna be sections like your hand, like your fingers.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is that like they fill up with wax, and then once they're full, they come back together. I think you get less wax than a hake brush, because what happens with the hake brush is it's just like a lot of bristles and one big thing, and it's just going in, it's gonna go picking it and pulling it out.
Right.
So every artist, I say that you need to figure out what brushes you like.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And it's a big deal. It's kind of like shooting with a 35 millimeter or shooting, with a 70 to 200 or shooting with a 600. Like it's really make a big difference, like how you're covering, your surface with the wax and what the brush is acting like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
a
get
tool.
it.
It's a tool. So,
Yeah.
okay, you want to be trying different brushes and finding the ones you like. I don't buy metal tins. You can use a tuna fish can or, like I said, those baking pans, right? You don't have to buy metal tin. You don't need a temperature regulator. Okay, so I'm just, okay. Let's see what else they had in here.
Okay.
I don't really go crazy. I use a lot of sort of art households to hardware store stuff. I use a lot of I think that's it. I think that's all they have on here. Oh, and medium. So did you buy RNF wax medium?
So I have this RNF.
Yep. Okay, so you just
Also I have this, but it's kind of old. I've had it for a long time.
home decor, I wouldn't use that.
Okay.
That might have another additive in it that's not good for you to breathe. I don't know what's in that. Let's just stick to the ones that we know, which is the RNF. Yeah. So
Got it.
you can also experiment between RNF wax medium and I would buy Encaustico's wax medium and then you can try.
Okay.
I don't really, I just buy Encaustico's wax medium and I'm more used to it. I don't really think you would notice a huge difference between the two. You know, I
Yeah.
also sometimes use a little bit of what's called bleached beeswax. And if you're like looking at my work from like 2000, older work, I used to do just a poured process.
Right.
And like that's what I did with Martha Stewart, where I like went on, I had the photo mounted to the panel. And if you want, this is one of the things we can talk about is sort of like, what do you want me to teach you? And the poured process is very beautiful for photography.
Yeah.
So
I mean that's the kind of I think encaustic that I'm used to, but that I've seen anyway.
right.
And since following your work, I've seen all of the different things that you've been doing with it, and that's why I'm so intrigued by it. But I'm kind of an open book. I will learn whatever it is that you feel like teaching. I'll show you what I have.
Yeah.
And then you can tell me, like I mounted this. This is just copy paper.
Yeah.
And then I have, and this is just on a cradled board.
Perfect. Yeah, it's perfect.
And then I mounted this guy. This is on a linoleum block.
Perfect.
I did all black and whites. I have another
architecture. Is that like Greece or something? Is it? It looks like a.
Oh, this is a great story. This is one of my favorite photos. This guy was in Amalfi Coast, and my husband and I were staying in an apartment like way up in the hills, and we walked down the stairs to go to town every day. And every morning, this guy would pull his chair out in the stairwell, and he would watch the people come and go every day up and down the stairs. And it was like always really early in the morning, and the light was always so pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like a pink hue in this is a film photograph, but there's like a pink hue in the light.
I love
in the color version.
So pretty. Well, we can put that back in there with the wax if you want. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah, we can do a lot of things. Okay, so you have those two mounted, right? And then I also work on paper. So I work directly on paper.
Okay, so I got this guy printed.
Oh, I love that one. Perfect. Perfect.
So, and then I can print whatever else other.
Okay.
But this is just copy paper. This is not regular. This isn't like art paper. I couldn't find my art paper anywhere.
Okay, so I use Hanemule paper. I have an Epson 3880. Do you have a can? Is that a Canon?
What do I have? I just have it. I think it's just an HP inkjet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can get it. Does it only print 8x10? Does it go bigger?
No, it won't go any bigger.
Okay. So one of the things you can do, you can try some either Kodak photo paper in the matte, which is nice. It'll just give you something a little bit too thicker. You want to be careful with that HP printer that you don't put something in there that's going to jam it up.
Yeah, I have printed on photo paper before. It does print photos as well.
And don't go crazy. Like you can just use Staples. They make a nice photo paper. Canon makes Kodak makes a nice photo paper. If you can just get a nice matte photo paper. The thing about the copy paper is that it'll become, when you put the wax on it, it'll go translucent. But you might like that. Like, like thin paper, I say use it. Like I even like to put wax on like old letters, you know, and then I can collage them together. They're gonna go translucent. They're so thin that the wax is just gonna be absorbed by the paper, right? So that's like one of the reasons that we use a substrate. You can take the copy paper too, and you can glue it onto a board, a cardboard even.
Yeah, I have cardboard, and I think I cut a big piece here. So I have like a piece of cardboard here that I can use.
Yeah, and cardboard is corrugated, right? So wax is reactive to reactive to surface texture. So you could even pull the cardboard apart. Like you could utilize the texture. Like anything that's uneven, wax will go into it. So there's an artist who I worked with in Lexington, Kentucky, like horse capital of the world, right? We got to go back there. And you need to know about her because she is the pioneer of encaustic art and teaching encaustic art. And she runs a place in Lexington, Kentucky called the Encaustic Castle.
Oh, wow.
It's an artist retreat venue. So it's pretty amazing. But she works a lot with cardboard. So she actually will even like take pieces of cardboard and stack them, glue them together, and then wax them. She'll make like cardboard cubes out of cardboard and then wax them. She'll make like God, she even mounted like corrugated cardboard onto wood and let the cardboard be like textural and corrugated with wax on it. It looks like some kind of crazy clay. It's like really beautiful.
Oh, wow.
All right, so I wrote her name down too in the chat. So,
okay, great.
So she has a series of books that she published. She has a series of YouTube videos.
Oh, cool.
That are free and out there.
Oh, great.
Yeah, one of my favorite videos is one that she did is basically about string and kind of using a wood panel, a bunch of making a grid with string, filling the grid in with wax, and then pulling the string out or leaving the string in. Like there's just a lot of really cool information. So you can definitely look her up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. So let's get started on how to set up and how to get working. Okay.
Great.
Okay. So are you going to work in that area that you're in right now?
This is my husband and I are currently sharing this office space. So I'm like, all of his stuff is over to one side and I'm like pulling tables in from the other side.
Oh, that's fine. That's totally fine. So do you have a table for your wax?
I do, yes.
Okay. So
I have the griddle is here on the same table, so I can move it.
I cover my tables with brown paper. So I just recommend that because then you don't have to worry. I mean, even if you want to trash the table, I still personally think it's nice to put something on the table so that if I just get overwhelmed, I can just clean it.
Yeah. Let me, I have some cardboard.
Cardboard is awesome. I also like to like brush my brushes out on my table, or I also usually wear an apron.
Great.
And I like to, I'll actually show you, here's some of my apron. I mean, I have a lot of aprons, right? So like, but you can see like from my aprons, I often clean my brushes on my apron.
On your apron, yeah.
Yeah, so instead of like finding a paper towel, like, so I'll literally just go like this and
that makes sense, yes.
kind of just makes me happy and it just kind of, I don't know, it makes my apron happy, so we're all good.
I did have some brushes.
Uh-huh.
So I have these brushes, but I think these are probably not going to work
I think
for,
they don't look organic. They look artificial.
you know what? I got these on Amazon a long time ago. So, but these are goat hair.
Yeah, you want goat hair. Yeah, you want organic bristles.
This is really, it's very soft.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a hake brush. Sometimes at the hardware store, they sell. If I have any. Sometimes at the hardware store, they sell these these little brushes. These are awesome. These are just they're organic bristle brushes. They come from the hardware store. Yep, they're like $3 or $2.99, and then
Yep.
they're super uneven, like really wiry. But you can give your brushes a haircut. So if you want to use these, like watch, if you want to use these brushes, but you don't want the brush strokes to be super uneven, you can literally trim them.
Oh, yeah.
So you can make them more like a hake brush, but just smaller.
Yeah.
You can trim them even, and then they'll just be more controlled. So you can literally give them a haircut.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So because if they're super uneven, the wax is just going to be very textured, which is not a bad thing. It's just something that to be aware of.
Okay.
The hake brushes are going to give you a nice even stroke, right? Because they have so many bristles, right? And then based on the size, right? So brushes come inch, inch and a half, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches. I actually just found out that they have an 8-inch hake brush. So that's on my 2021 wish list.
Yeah.
It's an 8-inch hake brush.
That's pretty big.
That's really big. So that basically means that like it would take up this whole. It would be as wide as this, right? It'd be
right.
like
Well, it makes sense that you'd want to have something big like that. Yeah.
Well, if you're doing a big piece and you want to do like a nice smooth stroke, you really can't do it with a small brush.
Oh, I think I do have a bigger brush, but the tins that I have are very small. So I probably am better off using something small.
You can start small, but you can also buy these.
I almost got those, but the ones that I got they're very tiny. They're like, when you said tuna fish cans, I was like, okay, I don't have tuna fish cans, but I have these.
Yeah, those are perfect.
Okay.
Start with those. Now, I don't, this is a really interesting conversation, and like we could have, I mean, there are so many, this is the thing about art and, and horses too. It's like, there's so many ways to do it. There's so many styles. There's so many philosophies. I don't keep paint tins. So like some artists will keep their paint in a tin.
Yep.
And then technically they'll marry a brush to the paint.
Okay.
So when you're like, and it's cool to look at, like when you're on Instagram or whatever, or if you start following Encaustic art and stuff, you'll probably get more stuff on Facebook. And like some days I'm like, I see new stuff that I've never seen before. And I'm like, wait, I've been already doing this for, 20 years. I'm still seeing artists that I've never seen before. But so one woman has like, it's really cool. She has a magnet board.
Oh, and she keeps her paint tins on the magnet board?
Yes, with the brushes, because what happens is if you put a brush in here and then it cools down, it'll hold the brush. So it's really cool. It's very tempting. Like, so literally all of her paints that she has available. And like when I just actually was in, yeah. And then she just literally goes over the magnet board, pulls the couple paint colors that she wants down, puts them on the hot plate, and then paints them. So you could definitely do that. You could definitely marry your brush, your red brush to the red paint, right?
Yeah.
I just don't do that. I take every day as a new day, new colors. I paint right off my palette. I use a mud system. So that's another reason why, like, you might learn, every encaustic teacher, every encaustic artist has a different style.
Right. Yeah.
So,
You kind of find your way through it.
right. I mean, if you ever decide to go to RNF and take a workshop, if you ever go to Texas and take a workshop, if you ever go to Rochester and take a workshop, like you're going to be around, the professionals, the top people in the business, and they're going to have a fully equipped studio. My studio is fully equipped, but they're going to have,
Yeah.
we're all doing it and we all do it in our own way. So that is one thing that you can start to think about. And what's good about it is that your work, I think my work is consistently my work because I've mastered my thing, but this is the nature of art. So whatever you decide to do becomes part of what the work looks like, right?
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to use the tins. You're more than welcome to keep the brushes in the tins or clean the brushes at the end and keep the tins. You're more than welcome to just wipe off your palette. So we'll talk about all of these things.
Okay.
And the thing I do like about these versus this is I can't get this wax out.
Yeah.
The reason that I like this is it's more like baking and I can pop, for whatever reason, I can pop my wax out.
Right. Exactly.
So, and I like to keep these are what I call my mud colors, but I showed you like, these are all my mud colors. And mud means, mud is like a couple, like it's like a day of painting. And this is where I cleaned my brushes. But these colors are very important to me.
Yeah.
Because I made them from the other colors that I was painting with.
Right.
And I can melt these down and re-include them into future work.
That makes sense. That's the nice part about wax, huh?
Well, right. And you start to feel like a little hoarderish, but like these are but I love these colors. Like
I love them too. And they're very unique to you because you made things
right.
with them.
Right. So then I can keep them around and then I can remelt them.
Yeah.
Use them. Okay. So and you can do the same, and you can do the same thing. You can do the same thing. So those are my mud colors, and they come from my technique of having 2 pots on my palette, one that's clean and one where I clean my brushes. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, okay, so if I'm setting up my palette, here's my palette, I plug it in, and I'm gonna set the temperature dial to 175.
Okay. You want me to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have anything else I have to do today, so we could do you want to go till 3:30 or do you want to end at 3?
No, let's go. If you can do 3:30, that would be great. And then
yeah. Let's do 3:30 because I'll get you up and painting.
Okay. Well, then let me.
All right, so I'm gonna plug my hot plate in too.
Okay, so 175?
I swear you can buy a separate thermometer. I call hot plate temperatures are what I call sort of random.
Oh, they're not exact, huh?
Hot plate temperatures are their own temperatures. I mean, you can buy a separate cooking thermometer that you could put onto the hot plate to actually know. I just go by, it's kind of like riding. It's like you need close contact to the horse, but then when you're over contacting the horse.
Right, yeah.
They're like flipping their heads up and down or whatever,
yeah,
or
exactly.
like pulling your reins out of your hand. They're like, yeah, that's a little too much contact.
Yeah.
So the same thing with the hot plate and the waxes. If it's too hot, you'll see a little smoke, and you don't want smoke. You don't want smoke. So you want to keep the things melting, but you don't want them smoky. And also, you're working in your house. If you have a window, I would crack your window. What happened? I would crack your window.
Okay.
And I would also, if you can, get like a little fan, even if it's just some type of air circulation.
I have a fan.
Okay, so even if it's a ceiling fan.
Oh, he didn't plug it in. Hold on.
That's okay. Take your time.
Go down below here. All right. All right. Let me open a window a little.
Biggest favor. Did you get a glass of water? Or my water bottle? I don't know. I'm so thirsty. So you can read about toxicity and you can see how you feel after you've worked with the waxes. I mean, I work with the waxes all the time. I have a very large space, so I'm basically in, you know, a 2,500 square foot space. I don't have any windows open right now because it's cold, but and I don't have, you know, but I have like a little. I guess I have a fan. I don't know, and I have open space. So you just want the idea of like if you're blending like fresh air with fumigated air, technically you're circulating it. The toxicity level of the waxes are low. Some of the colors, it's the pigments of the wax color
Okay.
that is where the toxicity lies. So the cadmium colors have more toxins, you know, than some of the other colors. And like, so you can read about them specifically, or if you see if you have any allergies or if you have any reactions like a cough or, but I think you're pretty safe. And I mean, to me, it's all natural. You know, it's pretty natural. It's all stuff that's from Earth. But you know, some people are sensitive to pollen or
Yeah. I mean, I
grass.
work with
Some people don't like grass.
horses all day and fly spray and all the different chemicals and
I
that
know,
kind of
and I
stuff.
spent 20 years in the dark room, so I know.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, just so you can read up on your precautions. See, okay, so do you see my hot plate? That it's very
It's smoking.
right. So, well, right, but I didn't even really pay attention. I turned it on and it's on like 275.
Oh, okay.
So, and I can smell it and it's smoky. So, I turned it down to my hot plate says warm and then 200. So, I guess I really want it like really I just want it on warm. I'm going to just go for warm after it heats up. So, my hot plate 2 is has paint on it.
Right.
So like I could definitely like now it's all liquidy, right? So it's all melted. There's no reason why I couldn't paint with this paint. So I could just take the paper towel and like wipe it down to the other end, right? And then I can save it. Or this is how I clean my palette, right? So when I start out, if I have paint on here, I just use a paper towel and clean it. It's a little hot, but it doesn't bother me.
Awesome.
Okay. I also put a little bit of wax medium in this pot, right? So I'm going to melt that. And I'm going to put a little bit more.
Should I add some wax in my tins?
Oh my God, please. Yes. Put some wax, just some wax medium. Can you do 2 tins?
Yeah. And then how much should I put in there? Should I fill it?
Well, the more wax you put in there, the longer it's going to take to melt.
Okay.
So you're kind of better off just like putting a little bit in there, melting it, and then adding a little bit more.
That's too much. Okay. It all decided to come out at one time.
For whatever reason, but when I start out with like a super full tray of wax, it takes forever to melt it. So less melts faster.
Okay. All right. So we've got those on.
And like sometimes too, just FYI, in the future when you're gonna work, just go ahead and go out and put your hot plate on and melt your wax like a half hour before you want to work.
Okay.
So you're never gonna really be able to go, I'm gonna work and start up right away, right? You're always gonna need to be like,
You have to set it up.
my hot plate on, I'm gonna let my wax melt. It's gonna take about half hour, 45 minutes, and then I'm gonna work.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing is too, is that once you start using a bunch of brushes, they're gonna cool down and they're gonna have wax all over them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can put them on the hot plate to, right, like this.
Yeah.
Or you could put them in a tin, right, with a little bit of wax. But basically, sometimes I just will put a bunch of brushes on the side, the edge of my, on the edge of my hot plate, just to warm up, to soften, right? And then in a few minutes, they'll be ready to go. If you have a brand new brush, you don't need to worry about that. But if you've used the brush one time, the next time that you use it, it's going to be hard. And it's also,
Okay.
it's going to have whatever color you ended on. So we can talk about cleaning brushes too today.
Okay.
So I had a brand new little brush. So I'm using this one. This one, if it's brand new, it doesn't need to get heated up because it's brand new, right?
Okay.
So it's already soft. I also, like, I just ordered wax and it didn't come yet, but I order like 5 or 10 pounds at a time.
Oh yeah, I would guess that you probably have to.
Well, if you're working on bigger pieces or, you know, whatever, you're going to go through that bag. You're going to go through that little bag pretty quickly.
I thought maybe I would. And then I thought, okay, maybe I should do a bigger picture. And then I was like, well, I probably don't have enough wax for that. So I should stick with the small ones.
Well, you can try to recycle all the wax that you can. You know, you're going to want to recycle everything you can. So you don't want to just, like, you know, use it and clean it and throw it away. You'll use it up. You know, you'll utilize it.
So what are you doing now? Are you putting
This is just like one of those, like, dirty, I'm just melting some wax on here to get it melting faster. This is actually one of my muds.
Okay.
Like a piece of my mud. So I'm just kind of melting it on here. I put some wax medium and some mud in this tray, but you can see, like, it's melting very slowly. So let's let this heat up. Is your wax melting?
Yeah, it's getting there. It's like stuck to the bottom now.
Yeah, so it'll take a minute. So while that's melting, let's talk about the photos. And
okay.
I'm just gonna use these. These are actually recently glued. These are little panels. These are actually photos of paintings that I've already done, but I'm gonna send them out as little promo pieces. So a couple of things that I do to the panels after I mount them is I take sandpaper and I sand the edges.
I wondered if maybe you did that. And I got sandpaper.
This is kind of an really important thing for me, is sanding. Hang on, I'll just get some other pictures. I think because of like my darkroom years, I really am still very attached to techniques that I loved in photography. So, and because that's my background, so burning and dodging is really important to me. I also grew up like with Marshall oils on hand painting photographs. I mean, I still really love that look.
Yeah.
Just like a beautiful black and white of, you know, something with just a tiny little bit of a color, you know, either in the sky or in the grass or in a figure, just like very subtle, poetic, dreamy kind of work.
Yeah.
So to me, burning and dodging, sandpaper. Sandpaper would be dodging. So if I have an area that's very dark in the picture that's too black or too dark or or even what if I have something in there that I don't like in the picture? I can literally use the sandpaper like Photoshop and eliminate the whole thing. Okay, so inkjet paper is very forgiving and you can literally like sand something off.
Yeah.
So let me show you. I'm gonna give an example. Hang on, I have to just go over to my print box. Let me find something that will demonstrate. Hold on. So this is actually a perfect example. Basically, so this is a perfect example. These two pictures are basically the same picture, except one, I took a charcoal pencil and I drew around the outside edge.
I love it. Yeah.
So it totally changed the picture, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and the other one, hold on.
Oh, I think you froze.
So,
oh, there you go. Okay.
So for me too, as an artist who works all the time in my, oh yeah, it's saying my connection's unstable. Come on, connection. So for me in my studio, because I'm an artist, I work all the time. I often will work on one image in more than one time. So if I feel like an image has a lot of potential, I will maybe print it 2 or 3 times and then try different techniques on it. So this one,
like that.
Yeah, and so density of the image is important to me, contrast of the image is important to me, and then what I call like my artistic expression, right? So I like to use charcoal or a wax crayon. I actually really love charcoal sticks. Oh, and I love these. I'm sorry, I'm just looking for them. I love these woody crayons.
Oh yeah.
So these are just like fat, multi-purpose kids crayons, but they're super awesome. And Amazon sells the whole set for like $25.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so woody, I can put it in the chat. They're woody crayons. So
woody crayons. Okay.
Yep. Hang on, I'm gonna put it in the chat. And the nice thing about the woody crayons is that they go under the wax and over the wax.
Yeah.
So you can draw on the paper underneath, or you can draw on top of the wax, and they work.
So it doesn't melt when you put the hot wax over it.
Mm-hmm. And like the graphite is fine too. I mean, technically you could draw with a Sharpie on the photo.
Yeah.
I mean, you could use any felt marker, pen, pencil. If you wanted to add font, like what if I wanted to write a poem, right? Or, draw on the photo, right? So like here, like what if I just wanted to say, I mean, technically, right, if you wanted to add font, right? If you wanted to add a bunch of polka dots, you can do any type of drawing on the photo before you start, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is charcoal. So the charcoal is gonna smear a little bit. So what I do is I smear it first.
Okay.
And if you do decide to do something like this and you smear it into the brush, you can just clean the brush. But like, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
And then what I do is I just take my finger and I blend it first. So this is just a charcoal stick. Now, if I do it with the woody crayon, so technically I could take the woody crayon, right? And I can draw. Now this won't blend, right? The woody crayon won't blend with my finger and probably won't blend under the wax either, right? And if I did all that blue all around there, I'll probably either do some blue in these flowers, right? So that, and then I could always add more flowers, right? So this is the thing for me is I'm always like, I put that in my photo, but then when I turn it into an art piece, I can add anything I want, right? Like I want more flowers, right? I want, yes. And a lot of times for me, like I'm not a perfectionistic drawer. So even just like kind of the suggestion of it is like good enough for me. All right. So let's look at now with the sandpaper. I can tear the sandpaper down. This is it says 236 on the back. I don't know what this is. This feels like medium. Oh, it's like 80.
I think mine is like 320.
Yeah, it's fine. So say I wanted to get a little bit more pop out of foreground and background here. These are pretty close together tonally. So I can go ahead and sand this along this outside edge, and it's gonna really lighten it. It's gonna really lighten it now, look,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh, it really did.
Right, so this is dodging. So I
Okay.
just literally
Yeah.
physically dodged this paper. I also created a lot of cool texture, right? And then I love like the kind of like lines the sandpaper gives me. Like, look at that, like, right? Like
Oh yeah.
how
I
that.
know. That's so great. I like that you are like seeing that as a burning and dodging.
That is totally a burning dodging technique. So watch here. Look, I'll do it on something darker. Look, this is this is a black, right? So say I wanted this to go lighter. This is look at this. It's like incredible.
What kind of paper is this that this print is on?
This is a photo. This is just a photo rag paper.
Okay.
This is a rice paper, but look at that texture that sandpaper gives.
Oh, I love it.
Look at that. They're like little, like in the summertime when they're those tiny little flowers that aren't even flowers, they're like burrs almost, like with a little line. I mean, that's so cool, right? So I could do that like it gives me like these little lines. It's kind of like these little fireflies. And then look, if I too, like maybe this lace is actually just too sharp. So if I go on the lace with the sandpaper, I can sort of start to blur it by loosening the intensity of the image. Look how much nicer it is without that lace being so sharp.
Yeah, it's way less contrast. Yeah.
It's just, you can't get into the, it's not distracting because it's like a looser texture, right?
Yeah, I love that.
So I do one other thing to photos pretty consistently. I don't know if I included this when I emailed you, but I use Gesso or Encaustic Gesso. Did I talk about that?
I don't think so.
Okay. So it's the same exact thing as the sanding. It's basically like fancy white out. So rather than doing the work in Photoshop, like what if I just totally wanted to like get rid of this, like what if I just totally wanted to get rid of this like lace altogether, right? Or I wanted to have like white, no black at all. Like I could take the gesso and I could basically cover up anything in the photo that I didn't like.
Yep.
So like what if I photographed a model? My most famous, I always use this example, but like I photographed this really cool model. I loved the way she was posed. I loved her wardrobe, but I photographed her in a cemetery. And like, maybe I don't always want the cemetery as the setting.
Right.
But I love this figure. So 2 things I can do consistently. One is I can cut the figure out, glue her on another background, or B, I can take the white encaustic gesso and paint over the graveyard.
That makes sense. Yes. Yeah.
Right? So I can do this. I'll prep something for our next meeting if you like that concept.
Yeah.
Okay. So I also use the sandpaper to round the edges.
Yeah.
Right? So that the photo isn't sticking on outside.
That's it. Yeah, I'm working on that. Like the photo paper I think was like 11 and a half by, or 11 by 8.5, and this is 8 by 10. So
yeah. Now you don't forget all of these parts of the panel are usable, right? So that means if you wanted to glue text on here or another type of paper on here.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You can write on here. You can also burn this.
Oh yeah.
So if you
that would be cool.
If you decide to get the torch or use the torch, right? This is the torch.
little mini handheld torch.
Okay, so the wood.
Oh, I like that.
Right? So you can torch the edges. And all of these types of things I do before I wax. Right? So we're already at like a pretty, even just like in 10 minutes, right? We did a lot of what I call pre-conditioning before I wax. So even look how I'm able to sort of like tone the photo with the heat.
And this is just regular paper that you have that on?
Yeah, this is regular photo that I have on a wood panel. So do you see how I even was able to just sort of like took away the bright white?
Yeah.
And gave it just that like beautiful mid-tone here. Is like so pretty. This too, like I took away the heat, and then the edges are more like organic, right?
Oh, that is so cool, Leah. I love that.
Okay, so that's all with the torch. All right, so I'm gonna do the other side just so it matches. And what's nice too is that this image has like some dark around the outside. So it's nice that the edges are dark, right?
Yeah. You want the edges to be light.
Well, if your image is very light, you want your edges light. And if your image is dark, you want your image, I think you want edges that match
your image.
I think so, yeah.
So this is gonna look really great.
So, and I like sort of the fact that I can't really control what the torch is gonna do. You know, I kind of just have to like be happy with the results.
It really brings out like the tones of the grain of the wood too. Like the contrast with that.
Okay. So I burned it maybe a little bit heavy here, right? But I don't know, it'll be fine. When I add wax to it, I can paint it. I like how it's not quite so bright white and it kind of matches like these spaces now.
Yeah.
Sort of, she looks like she's really popping forward off of this background.
Yeah, she is.
Okay.
Oh, so cool.
So when you're ready, we'll start with the first layer of wax.
Okay.
So I now have this piece that I'm gonna paint today. I have this paper piece, which I can paint today. And then I have these guys, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that I like to do is paint on paper. And then what happens with the paper pieces is that I can make them more quickly. And if I really love them, or I think they've turned out really well, I can always mount them back onto a panel. So you don't have, you can, yes. You can definitely take a piece that you've waxed on paper and then glue it to a panel.
Okay, I think he's ready.
Okay.
So he looks much softer now. Okay.
Yeah, it's just about, adding some texture, loosening up the photo, starting to make it a little bit gritty, I call it, or textured, right? It sort of begins what I call for photographers, like letting go of the handrail.
Yeah.
Because some photographers can be so stuck on their image and they're afraid to let go. Like they think it's bad or something.
That's very common in photography.
Yeah, it's almost like you're really trying to train yourself to think about the photo as just being like a launch, a starting point, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna go wherever you go, right? So it's like the first step. It's not the end all. It's just like a part of the bigger picture. It's not the boss anymore. It's gonna turn into, okay. So my brushes, so these, How's your wax?
It's not very melty.
Turn it up.
Huh.
Turn it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you at what are you at 175?
I am at 250 now.
All right. Well, that's too hot. Go back down to 225.
Okay.
But maybe it'll just.
I mean, it's definitely warm. I can feel the heat coming off the griddle, but it's the first time I fired it up, so maybe it just takes a while.
And like I said, like it when you put it in those cups like that, it sticks to the other wax. It like doesn't want to melt. So basically, it's kind of like it's kind of like we are in water. It's like gonna hold on to something and be like, I'm gonna hold on to you. I don't want to go.
It's kind of clumping together. So I think it's at that point where it's like it's gonna relax.
Yeah, you can kind of break it up with a brush if you want, or you can just let it do its own thing.
Yeah, they're all sticking. All the little beads are sticking together, so they're gonna relax a little bit in a second.
So all right. So Jen, here are these were my. I'm gonna put your view on my palette. So these were my wax brushes, right? So you can see now they're not waxed. You know, they're loose.
Yes.
They're warmed up. So, I can tell there's a little bit of like bluish green paint. So to clean my brushes, I just use a paper towel and I literally just squeeze them out. So I can see now that that was the color that was on the brush, right? And even though the bristles might sometimes stay stained, technically now this brush should be clean, right? So I can see I'm brushing it out here. I'm not seeing that blue here anymore. I can test it one more time. I'm brushing it out. I don't see that blue-green color anymore.
Okay.
Okay. So even though the bristles look a little bluey green,
it's stained. Yeah.
It's stained. I'm not gonna. And honestly, like for me, it's probably okay if I have a little teeny bit of that color because I know that I can add another color. I can always paint the wax white. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if your wax is slightly yellow or slightly blue or slightly something, I just think that's pretty. And I use that as almost like an undertone. And then if I want bright white or a solid color, I just paint it on.
Okay.
If that, I don't know if that's, okay. So, and then these are littler hake brushes. So same thing, cleaning them. I brush them out on the hot plate, just like this. Then I brush them on, right? And I'm cleaning my hot plate. So if I had any paint there, now I have it clean. And down here, I still have like that red that was on there from before, right?
Right.
So if I wanted to use that, I could. All right, then I have my tin with a little bit of clear in it. Okay. So if I'm gonna paint on my wood piece, right, I can use this brush that's similar to what you have, and I'm just gonna demonstrate some strokes, okay?
Okay.
And this is like, if we end in like 10 minutes, you should be able to paint yourself, right? And in about 10 minutes after you watch me, and then the next time we meet, we can go over how you think that turned out or, you know, what's next.
Great. Okay, I like that.
Does that sound like a good plan?
That's a great plan.
Okay. So each of these brushes, I'm going to demonstrate 3 brushes, right? So I have a medium, I would say medium hake. This one's probably about, let's say this one's an inch and this one's an inch and a half.
Okay.
This one is probably also, yeah, this is an inch. It says it right here, 1 inch.
1 inch. Yep.
Okay. So the thing about 1 inch is that it's good for a piece this size, right? Because I can just kind of go like boop, 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 but it wouldn't be good for a piece this size, right?
Right. Yeah, that's where you want the 8 inch.
Yeah, unless I really want a lot of texture, right? And the thing about a small brush is it's going to give you a lot of texture, especially a cheap brush like this, right? It's going to be all texture. So let's watch what it does. So I'm painting here. Can you see me?
Yep, I can see it.
So I'm painting here and it's just going to give me a lot of texture. I can see all the texture. Okay. So I've got a little bit of wax on there, but I can see it's very bumpy. And
Yep,
it's
yep.
got all these little lines in it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. So that's fine if that's what you want. If you want totally smooth, you have to do two things. Maybe use more wax and shorter strokes. More wax and shorter strokes. And that's going to make it, right? That's going to make it smoother, right? And this is like just a technique versus this, right? Which is going to give me what?
Like a crisscrossy texture you
Yeah,
love.
exactly. So I called this stroke burlap, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And this one velvet. Okay.
Got it.
So you can definitely see the difference between nice, smooth, glassy, right? And crisscrossy, right? Has
Yeah.
to be burlap. Okay. Now for me, I like both. If you only like one, well, then you're gonna have to like, just but for now, and I actually like them like overlapping, and I like the diversity of more than one texture on an artwork.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that too.
I used to really do like one or the other, or for a long time, I only did the smooth. And I mean, I only poured pieces for years and years. So I've really just kind of tried to develop, okay, my different styles. So this is what the piece looks like right now. This is just one coat of wax. Now, technically, this is where it gets a little bit complicated, is you could be done. There's nothing, there's no book, there's no rule that says you have to add another layer of wax.
Right.
However, because it's encaustic and because you can layer it, this could be one, there could be 2, 3, 4, an infinite number of layers added to this layer.
That's awesome.
And
it dries pretty quick then.
it just cools.
It just cools.
Yeah. Yeah, it cools pretty quick. What does happen is that there's like a little bit of a blooming or like a transition from hot to cool. And when it gets a little bit cooler, it gets a little bit more clear.
Okay.
Less foggy.
Okay.
But okay, so say you love this and you're just like, I love it, it's done. You could add a little bit of oil stick to it and a little around the outside, it's done. For me, I tend to go further. I also maybe might fuse it, right? So there's a lot of possibilities. So let's just look at fusing. Do you know what fusing is? Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay. So the word encaustic means to burn in. So technically, each layer of encaustic needs to be heated up so that they're connecting.
Okay, get it. I got it. Yep. Fused.
Fused.
Yeah.
So fusing is also an art tool. So what happens when you fuse is you're adding heat to the wax. The wax is heating up and it's pooling out.
Right.
So it's the heat makes it loosen and expand and get flat. So if you had texture, the heat's taking the texture away.
Okay, smoothing that out. Yeah.
Right. So
okay.
You can use a heat gun.
Yep.
Or a torch. And if you just want to do it for the fusing and don't get rid of the texture, just keep the heat gun far away, hit it real quick, and don't stay on it.
Okay.
The more you heat it, the more liquefied it's going to get and the more it's going to pool into flat.
Okay.
So the good things about that is if you wanted it flat, you can heat it up and flatten it. The bad thing is if you wanted the texture, you can get rid of the texture by accident.
Right.
Okay. So there's a couple things we can talk about if you want to specifically keep texture. Like say I really didn't want to get rid of the texture up here. Okay. I could take a piece of masking tape.
Oh, that makes sense.
Cover that.
Yeah.
And then I could fuse around, right?
Burning and dodging.
again, masking, right, goes back to some of the techniques that we know about Photoshop, photography, darkroom photography, right? Masking, burning, and dodging, right?
Yep.
Saving something, getting rid of something else, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so luckily because of photography, we have a lot of those sort of pre-discovered ideas, right?
Oh,
Okay. The other thing you can do is that you can use any of these tools, these pottery tools or shaving tools, razor blades, scrapers. I actually really like painter palette knives. So say I just wanted to work on a specific area, I can just scrape an area, right? So if I had too much wax on her face or too much texture, I can literally just take it off and almost go what I call like back to the photo. So I just scraped off like all the wax on her face.
and that doesn't ruin the actual paper of the picture.
Not unless you scratch it.
Okay.
But what it does is that it makes that area where I remove the wax sharper.
Okay.
So thicker wax.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, thick. It's so photographic. It's crazy. Thicker wax is blurrier.
Yep.
Thinner wax is sharper.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right.
so
Yeah.
if I really, so you can see the contrast of focus between her face right here and like this, or
Yep.
even her hands, right? So if I went and added another layer of wax, it's gonna get even what?
It's gonna get blurrier.
It's gonna get blurrier. And
Yeah.
in contrast, it's gonna bring your eye
To her face.
right. I mean, and look, I really like right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Oh, I love that.
So
Yeah.
you're controlling by using the wax and the thickness of the wax, you're controlling what the viewer can see, what part of the picture you're letting them into.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So then I could fuse this, and I say I don't like this drip. Like this strip right here, like I can just take this palette knife and just reduce it. Right?
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
Okay, so I think that's a good place to stop.
Very moldable. I like how it's
Yeah.
really easy to work with.
Yeah, really easy to work with. So the only other thing, like I could fuse it now because I added one layer plus another layer. So you technically have to fuse it. So I can just fuse it real light with the torch and just kind of give it, just that's it. That's all it takes.
That's awesome.
Okay, and I think that's a good place for us to stop.
Yeah.
And I think that you should try it.
Okay, my wax has given up. It's melted.
Oh, good. Okay, well I can watch you for a second if you want.
Okay, great. So, okay. Do I need to like clean the surface at all, or is that going to make a difference?
Of your photo?
Yeah, because I sanded it, so it's got like a little bit of roughness from the picture.
Yeah, wipe it with a paper towel or blow it with if you have like compressed air can or.
Yeah. Okay, I have that.
There you go, real darkroom girl. Go awesome. I used to love compressed air, cleaning my negatives.
I know, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So you can.
All right, here we go.
You can figure out too, like where you want to start.
Oh, this is so cool. Oh, I'm really gonna get into this.
So I wouldn't hold your piece if I were you. I think I would put it. Can you put it down?
Okay.
I just think you're gonna want, put it down. I don't think the thing about the wax is going on hot, and if it's on an angle, it'll drip.
Yep.
So,
okay.
Yeah, you'll be more relaxed like that. That's better.
Oh, I see. So it gets like thick, and then there's thin.
Well,
layers.
when you first put the brush down on it, it's thick, and then if you move the brush, you're like spreading it out.
Yeah.
And then if you keep moving the brush after the dip, that's when you're getting more texture. So just keep moving keep moving, crisscross, switch direction. There you go. Now you're gonna get that burlappy texture. Keep moving, keep moving, keep
But
moving.
it almost has like a candle drip texture.
So did you get a lot more texture when you just kept moving?
Oh yeah.
Right. So if you go in the pot, out of the pot, in the pot, out of the pot, and you'll kind of get like thicker. Oh. But if you keep moving,
Some areas are
what?
some areas are thick and some areas are not.
Well, that's okay. You can leave them like that. You can just keep building them up. You can compare and contrast.
Oh wow. Oh, this is so cool. Yeah, I see the texture.
And you're still going, like, try crisscross. So vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. Now you're still going vertical, switch directions. There you go.
It doesn't last long on the brush, does it?
No, are you almost out of wax in your little pot? You're gonna need a bigger loaf.
I think I'm gonna need bigger.
Yeah, you should get a bigger loaf pan.
Okay, this other one is like somewhat melted. Okay. So now I'll try a smooth stroke. Oh yeah. Oh, this is cool. Okay, so now like I see what you mean by like wanting to take off some of the wax around his face because the wax got too thick on his face.
Right, but I would just wax the whole thing before you make any decisions like that.
Okay.
And I would also just think about enjoying the process of adding the wax right now and not think about anything else. And then I would enjoy the process of letting it cool and then make a decision like, oh, a new strategy, like I need to remove some on the face, or I need to smooth out this side, or I wish that wasn't so textured. So I kind of think it's better to just finish the process and then analyze it, look at it, assess it, and then make your next move. Does that make sense?
Yes. So now some of the wax has like made drips because my brush dripped on it, but then it dried very quickly.
Yeah.
So
you can scrape those off. That was like when I got that drip going down here, I just waited and then I just removed it by using a pottery tool or a palette knife or a razor blade and scraped it off.
Got it.
I mean, you might decide that you you have to remember too that wax is wax and you're using wax because you want to use it. So you have to try to, please forgive me if I keep comparing it to horseback riding, but
okay.
You have to, you have to just kind of keep it in mind, like the horse that you're riding, like what is it, who is it, what do they do, what are they capable of, even though you want blah, 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 like, so
right.
I always try to remind people to appreciate the wax for what the wax does, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna get used to it. You're gonna get used to its drippiness. You're gonna get used to its fogginess. You're gonna get used to layering it. You're gonna get used to taking it away. Sort of like all of the things that it does. But it's gonna take a little while to, pick and choose what you like and don't like, and it's gonna take a little while for you to get good at it, right?
Yeah.
See, like I can tell from over here that I think your brush would drive me crazy because it's not melted enough. Like, look at my brush. My wax is melted.
It's very melted. This is like, it hardens almost immediately.
So it's not hot enough.
Okay.
Or you don't have enough wax.
Okay.
So you shouldn't be painting with wax that's cool in any way. Your wax should be totally liquid, like liquid when you're painting. And there shouldn't be anything on your brush except bristles. You shouldn't see clumps of wax on the bristles. Look at my bristles. they're clear, clean.
Yeah.
Your bristles are covered with cool
It's got
wax.
wax on it, yeah.
So get all that up, because so you're not getting what I call a clean stroke.
Yeah, it's definitely not, it's not clean. Like you can tell. See, if you can see it.
Hold it back a little bit. Yeah, I mean,
It's very,
it's your first try. I mean, yeah. So there probably were times that it was too cool. It wasn't moving smooth enough. It wasn't spreading out. So you can correct that, right? So you can scrape it back with a tool, or you can heat it up with a heat gun and use another technique to make it smoother.
okay.
You can also play around with like what you just did was perfect, is you heated your brush up. Now there should be no more clumps on your brush, right?
Yeah.
So is your wax in that little pot totally liquid?
No.
So wait till it's liquid.
Okay.
If it's half liquid or it's half waxed, no, you want it all liquid.
Okay. I'll make sure I
Here's
start.
my wax. Here's my wax. Like liquid, like running.
Yeah.
Like loose, like water, like rolling around. So you turn your hot plate up a touch, or just wait.
Okay.
And sometimes, like, yeah, patience, timing. It's the heat element, and then it's also you knowing what you want, right?
Yeah.
And then doing what you need to do to get it. So if it gets too clumpy, you're like, I don't like this, then you need to do what you need to do to make it
right.
So more.
What that.
So
what that
play around with that one, and then you have another one you can wax.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna send you this recording. Wait, I'm gonna stop recording.